This is the first time, and I don't know how long we've actually been on time, or I guess consistent with the stated goal of trying to start at 10 a.m. over here, Pacific Standard Time. It's been a really obnoxious last 20 minutes. Let me kind of just make sure this is adjusted in a way that I can feel comfortable with. Maybe I should move the chair up a little bit. So I just about 20 minutes ago or so got out of an interview with a company. Now, I'm someone who's been to, by virtue of being unemployed for a long time, dozens and dozens of interviews. And generally, the structure of these interviews is that you'll speak to the person who's representing the company. They'll tell you something, they'll ask you like how you're doing, pretend they care about you. Nice little trick. And they'll explain what the company does, what their kind of, what a day, I guess, of the office looks like. They'll get around to asking you questions about either your background or personal stuff about you to kind of flesh you out as a candidate. But usually there's an established rapport that features several questions posed by the interviewer to you, the interviewee slash candidate for employment. And I go to this interview today. It's a Zoom interview, which already was like because I am getting kind of sick of all this phone and non in person stuff. But I go to this Zoom interview, and the first thing I notice when I click the link is that it's not working. So I call the place and I get no response. And what ends up happening is I go to a separate extension that they gave me that actually ends up working. It's like the last minute that I'm able to get in there, like the exact minute the interview's supposed to take place, I'm able to jump in. So after being unnerved by this, because again, I just barely made it on time to something that I was trying to get into for several minutes, I noticed that the person interviewing me is already speaking. So now I know that there's other people there, and it's on my phone at first. And these other people, they asked this interviewer asked each person, what are your qualifications? What have you done before? Personal stuff about themselves. And every person there answers in the span of maybe 30 seconds to 50 seconds. I'm hard pressed to think of anyone that actually spoke for a minute or even longer. It was all usually very brief. Now, going off of this trend and also holding this phone up is like kind of making me feel uncomfortable because I'm the only one who's not doesn't have like a device situated somewhere. I ended up deciding that I should probably, or rather, I'd be better suited if I just respond fairly quickly, like make mine's even shorter. And I'm under the assumption, and anyway, so I say a little bit about myself, I'm unemployed, whatever stuff I like to do. And I'm under the assumption that after giving this response, I'll be able to then expand on my answers, after the person interviewing us has explained more about the job. Again, going off of what I've seen in interviews where they usually have somebody that's, giving their little dissertation of what we do. And as they explain more and more stuff, they ask more and more stuff of you, just kind of see if you fit or whatever. That's just what I've seen from interviews. Instead of this happening, the person talks and talks and talks. I think she speaks for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes, just nonstop. Just talks and talk. And the whole time she's speaking, I'm just thinking to myself, okay, next time I get to say something, it'll be better than my previous answer. And at the end, it's just like, okay, well, you guys are gonna get a call at like at 5 or 7 tonight, and that'll let you know if you got the job or not. And I'm just thinking to myself, what? Because again, I'm used to having interviews where they ask you multiple things, give you multiple chances to respond the way that is considered suitable to them, and then they go from there. Not oh well, we didn't, we're gonna talk over you the entire time you're here. Let you say one thing, and then that'll be it. So I think I'm fairly confident that I didn't get that position, but like I said, these jobs really piss me off with some of the just strange things that they do. Like I swear, out of all the interviews I've ever been to, I've never seen one where after you go there and you get asked one question, that's it. There's no follow-ups, no continued responses, no nothing. Just one stupid little comment or stupid little like reply, and then that's it. I think that's really weird. And sure enough, I left it feeling very dissatisfied. Now I have a few other ones scheduled throughout the week, I guess between today and tomorrow. One that actually is probably going to be right after I finish streaming today, depending on if they cancel me or not. I think I said before one of the most laconic things ever that happened to me on a job interview was when I went to this one place and they told me to come at like I think it was 12 o'clock, and I got there early by a few minutes, and it took them 40 minutes to finally speak to me. Um, and then by the end of it, the person that was supposed to be asking me questions was so supposedly busy that I didn't even get to talk to them. And I just thought it was so crazy because, like, I guess for me, I'd be hard pressed to think of a time where I showed up to something on time and then just had to wait for like sometimes people are late by maybe like a minute, a few minutes. It just went on and on and on, and I got to a point where I was getting fixed to just say to hell with it, get up and leave. But it was just I always remember that that was back in like September, October, because it really shows you that employee like these businesses have a model, and the model is the time of the employees does not matter. They are not people. They're just little disposable pieces of trash that we can throw around and waste the time of, and pretend to be interested in. But we'll show you in little subtle ways that we actually couldn't care less, like you showing up on time and then us wasting your time for the next half hour or longer. We're having an interview that we only ask you one question on, and then tell you that you'll get some Dear John letter esque email or call later today. Which I think that's so stupid. Like, if you're not going to hire somebody, just don't say anything back. Why do I need to be told by this company, hey, we heard your 13 seconds of being able to actually tell us about yourself and we weren't impressed. Like, okay, just just go away. I think that's so weird. Like, out of all the interviews, I'm really scrambling my brain to think of any times where they only let you have one reply. I think this might be the first time ever where that happened. They're like, you must say this thing. It's like, I really and it sucks because my response was as short as it was under the assumption that I'd be able to expand on it as I've been able to do in other interviews. So that was really lame. It's the same old story, the same old song and dance. Yeah, I'm really just not too excited about this stuff. Especially since I may end up having to make the most blame man of all time for pretty soon, given some of the crazy things I've been hearing and have had discussed about me in recent times. Really, in the last few days, like ever since I got back from Birmingham, it's been this nonstop, continuous cycle of drama, and it really is all coming from the same person, getting mad over. I mean, people who were here on Saturday saw what happened. So it's just one of those things where I feel like if there were better circumstances, which again, all this stuff really is the byproduct of crap circumstances, but if there were better circumstances, I could get a position somewhere, again, full time, um, an apartment that doesn't cost 2,000 a month, which there are some that don't. And it's really lame that if you try to follow things in the specified and encouraged way, you get screwed over. Because, like I said, I would much rather have still been laying down, sleeping, or whatever than going to that interview. That nothing was accomplished there. Very, very lame. Let me so the other part of the title, besides the interview portion, has to do with Amazon. And I've said before, I'm the kind of person who, when I don't know something, I look into it because I'm honest enough with myself to say I really don't know that much about this. And there's a lot of topics where, mm, generally speaking, I'll have some overview position based around it, but then there might be little intricacies that I'm not entirely familiar with. Let me turn the brightness up. And when that happens, I try to immerse myself in learning about the stuff to become more knowledgeable of it. Because, I've mentioned before, major companies and even ones that are smaller than that tend to treat employees like second class citizens. Um, so I'm gonna read a couple of stories relating to Amazon, and because that's one of the bigger ones now. And it's crazy because a lot of this stuff you really have to look for it. Like, as someone that reads the news every day, and I mostly read The Hill, so I guess that's why it flew under my radar. But it's like, why didn't I see anything about this stuff? So this story is from a few days ago. It's called "Labor's Labor Lost a Year After Stunning Victory at Amazon Unions Are Stalled." It was the champagne pop heard across the economy 1 year ago Saturday. A fired Amazon warehouse worker turned labor activist sprayed champagne and then drank from the bottle outside federal labor offices in New York City. Swarmed by supporters and media, Chris Smalls toasted the victory, the first Amazon union in the U.S., led by Smalls and other workers at an 8,300 person warehouse on Staten Island, a feat few believe they could pull off. A hollow victory. Since then, though, the Amazon labor union has gained little ground. It is yet to win another union election, and Amazon still refuses to sit down for contract negotiations. In fact, despite the buzz around what seemed like a labor resurgence, the historic win in Amazon, as well as spirited campaigns at Starbucks on college campuses and retail stores across the country, the overall picture for unions remains bleak. This week, we got a window into why. On Wednesday, fresh from his third stint as Starbucks CEO and under threat of subpoena, Howard Schultz testified on Capitol Hill about the aggressive steps he's taken to discourage unions at Starbucks. Despite findings by federal labor officials that Starbucks has violated labor law on numerous occasions, Schultz repeatedly denied wrongdoing. So, let me say under oath, these are allegations and Starbucks has not broken the law, Schultz told the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Union membership is stalled. Just 10% of American workers belong to a union in 2022, the lowest in Labor Department records going back to 1983 when the rate was 20%. Never mind that 71% of Americans approve of unions, the highest in nearly 6 decades and up from 48% in 2009, a Gallup poll conducted last summer found. The bottom line is that labor law itself is tilted in favor of employers, say researchers who study labor movements, often making corporate hostility toward unions too hard to overcome. The recent groundswell of public support is far from enough to spark a union comeback. Those of us who have been watching this stuff for many decades have actually been pleasantly surprised by the success that has occurred, but it's too modest in scope and too fiercely resisted by employers to move the needle, says Ruth Milkman, a labor strategist at a labor sociologist at the Graduate Center at the City University of New York. One way to toward a union: delay, delay, delay. A big part of the problem, Milkman says, is under current labor law, companies can slow down every stage of the organizing process. And the longer it takes to organize a union, the more likely it is that workers will give up. Starbucks, for example, insisted early on that individual stores, which often employ just 25 to 30 people, should not be allowed to hold union elections, but rather all stores in a geographic region must vote together in one election, increasing the degree of difficulty for union organizers. Federal labor officials ruled against Starbucks, and elections proceeded at the store level. but not without significant delays. Fast forward more than a year, close to 300 Starbucks stores have been unionized, but not a single one has negotiated a contract. Starbucks and Workers United blame each other for refusing to bargain in good faith, but the union has more to lose. Organizers say it's hard. It's harder to convince coworkers to vote for a union when they can't show what they'll gain from union membership. Meanwhile, collective bargaining at the Amazon warehouse on Staten Island has yet to begin due to a parade of objections and appeals filed by Amazon over the past year. Following a lengthy Zoom hearing last summer to consider the company's objections to the election, federal labor officials found the complaints meritless and in January ordered the company to begin the negotiations with the union. But Amazon has since formally requested a review of that decision. If that review doesn't go in its favor, Amazon can still take its case to federal court for another round. This is so scummy. The cost of doing business. Unions have fought back, filing hundreds of unfair labor practice charges over anti-union activities, citing things like companies closing stores, cutting hours, threatening and firing organizers, and failing to bargain in good faith. Companies have also filed unfair labor practice charges against unions, but far fewer. But even where the NLRB has found violations of workers' rights to organize, the board decision doesn't have much financial bite. The agency's administrative law judges can only impose what are called make-whole remedies, things like back pay, reinstatement, and reimbursement for financial harms suffered as a result of unlawful activities. It's a cost doing business, AFL-CIO President Liz Shuler said in a Senate testimony earlier this month. Right now, you actually get a bigger fine for violating fish laws in many states than you do for busting unions. A push for tougher penalties. President Biden and Democratic lawmakers have pushed for passage of the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, known as the PRO Act, to fix some of the weaknesses of current labor law, starting with the civil penalties of up to $50,000 for violating workers' rights. But with the divided Congress, hopes for passage are slim, and without any chance in the law, Milkman said it's hard to imagine a significant uptick in the unionization in the U.S. With the PRO Act going nowhere, Senator Bernie Sanders turning to public shaming of those in power. Enough is enough. Amazon must come to the table and negotiate a fair contract with workers now. Sanders tweeted in January after labor officials ordered Amazon to begin collective bargaining. And in beginning remarks to Schultz's hearing, he called out Starbucks for waging the most aggressive and illegal union-busting campaign in the modern history of our country. A public shaming will lead to progress. It's unclear, though, how much can be gained through words alone. On Wednesday, Sanders was unable to elicit a promise from Schultz that Starbucks would exchange contract proposals with the unions within 14 days. He failed to get Schultz to admit to any missteps in his handling of the union campaign. Instead, Schultz did what he's done proudly for decades, outline the competitive wages and industry-leading benefits that Starbucks afford workers, including free college tuition and company stock, even for part-time employees. There is growing outside pressure for Starbucks and its new CEO, Laxman Narasimhan, I pronounce the guy's name, to reconsider the company's anti-union stance. At a meeting last week, shareholders voted to approve a proposal brought by heavyweight investors, including New York City's pension fund, for independent assessment of Starbucks labor practices and examination of its adherence to commitments it makes to uphold workers' rights. Still, it's unclear what the vote may mean. The shareholder proposals are not binding, and in encouraging a no vote on the proposal, Starbucks said has already begun its own third-party human rights impact assessment. Oh, what an interesting story. I'd say the biggest takeaway for me is the fact that union support by the American worker went from, it was 48% in 2009 to 71% last year, which is based off several things. One, that we haven't had a federal minimum wage increase in over 10 years, and people have caught on to that. But even as public support for unions has gone up by like a third, you're still seeing these companies that are completely fine with screwing over workers and having unfair labor practices. And they're smug about it. I mean, you have Schultz sitting right here, instead of admitting, hey, you know, we should meet with these unions, whatever. It's not like it's every single employee in one of them. Well, we have benefits for our workers. Like, yeah, a lot of companies that are not good have worker benefits. Some companies give you a free parking spot. Some companies give you a discount on their food. But if they don't pay you worth the damn, then your complaints are still legitimate. You can't say, "Well, I did one good thing here, so ignore all the bad stuff I did over there." That's basically what his rebuttal to this is. Yeah, I've seen Ned before. He's popped up and written stuff. Oh, and the American worker is under siege. But that's a really slick practice by Amazon where their way of getting out of even the victory that was in Staten Island was just to keep delaying over and over again with this lawsuit and oh, this place didn't rule the way we wanted to. Well, let's take it to this court. It's just really disgusting. Um, and like I said, I don't have any problem with the actual employees because I get where people, I mean, they'll work for pretty much anything. They're trying to make ends meet. It's really sad that these companies that have loads of workers, and you would think have the confidence to say, okay, we're treating these people well. They for some reason they can't argue that in court. Um, for some reason, when you directly say, hey, you've been doing this, oh, we didn't do it, even though you have proof and this investigation to determine that we were, oh, we didn't do it. And the problem with the PRO Act, even though I think it is a step in the right direction, uh, the civil penalty of up to 50,000 violating workers' rights. Biggest issue with it is that we live in because I said before, corporations have taken over America. They're the reason why people's wages stay low. They're the reason why these companies feel like they can fire somebody without even batting an eyelash. They're the reason why pretty much every time you expect for the government to assist the regular worker, it doesn't. What's happening here is that if the PRO Act is able to, let's say, clear the Senate, which I don't even think it would clear there because you're going to see at least Manchin probably show opposition to it. Even though the fact that it would get most of the Democrats already shows that it's not that strong of a piece of legislation anyway. And that's like the saddest part that even the most bare minimum of labor protection laws still can like barely by the skin of their teeth get passed with these slim majorities in the House or Senate, but it's definitely not going to pass the House. And again, that's not because it's an awful law or there's like some legitimate argument that people are going to. Because I can already hear the speeches on the Senate floor right now. This restriction um on the rights of companies messes with the free enterprise capitalism of our society and its regulation by the federal government and government intervention into I can already hear that right-wing trash just being spewed out already, and it might be even by members of both parties. They're going to say that. But like I said, this is the type of stuff where it's just one of the reasons I get angry with both parties, but with the Democrats more so is because they try to present themselves as the people that are concerned with regular Americans. Like they're the pro-abortion party, but even though they did nothing to protect Roe v. Wade, like they didn't try to codify it in the law at all. Even when they had a supermajority in the House and Senate, and I get irritated with them for the simple fact that they posture as the friend of labor, the friend of working people. Yet anytime that there's a chance for them to do something, they don't. And it's so frustrating because you have this party that if you look at each individual politician, like just members of the House, you look at their campaigns, what are they running on? Oh, I'm going to investigate this person. Oh, I'm going to restore America. We heard restore America's soul. It's like, what are you talking about? But this is the kind of stuff where if they actually went into their districts and said, I, as a US representative or as a prospective candidate for the House, Senate, whatever, am dissatisfied with corporations being able to discourage workers from getting together in unions so that they may, as a group, engage in collective bargaining and argue for higher wages, more vacation time, and any other benefits that they would be denied if they were in a singular capacity. And the PRO Act would do a little bit to actually get us in the direction of putting more power in the hands of the workers. But many of those already in Congress, including my opponent, are opposing it because they're anti-worker and pro-corporation. If they said that, they would win a lot of. I wouldn't say they'd win every, because there are some districts that will just vote for somebody because they have an R next to their name. But they would do a lot better than they do now. And I said it's hard to really think of a solution to this stuff. It really is. I think I mentioned I go to Starbucks sometimes to stream when over here just becomes so unbearable, as you saw last Saturday. But it's like, what do you tell the employees there? Do you tell them, hey, do you want a higher wage? Because it's like the great old thing of empathy is that when I sit here and I see a lot of the workers there and they're just kind of, they don't necessarily look miserable or anything, but you just have to wonder to yourself, if these people knew there was an actual organized effort to start a union, with them in it, and they weren't working for some company that goes out of its way to screw over unions, would they actually try to become involved? It's a question that, like, we'll never really know the true answer to, because even if you talk to these people and let's say some of them say no, you have to ask yourself how much of that is them actually talking, or Amazon, excuse me, or Starbucks, well, both of them, but like Starbucks metaphorically holding a knife to their back and going, hey, if you want to join this union, I hope you're prepared to not have a job. That type of stuff. That's exactly what they've done with their union busting. And the other issue again is that even if you get people organized to do this, uh, as we saw with what Amazon, where they kept delaying the case over and over, they could do the exact same thing there, where you get, let's say some victory where everybody gets together, joins you, in just best case scenario, and then they're like, oh well, you know what? We're going to go to this court, and that court rules in favor of the union. Oh well, we'll go to another court. Saw it happen in Staten Island. They got a victory. Everybody thought, oh my God, this is going to be a resurgence of labor. And a year later, nothing. And it's very unfortunate because there are a lot of people who should have some involvement with the union. Because, like I said, companies are not, they're never going to be incentivized to treat workers well until they face the risk of being in trouble for getting rid of them or doing something to them. A lot of people only don't break the law because they, like, you heard the phrase, can't do the time, don't do the crime. A lot of people only don't break the law because there's laws and they don't feel like facing whatever penalties there are for breaking them. Um, so it's really unfortunate that with a lot of these like pro corporation candidates and office holders, they really believe in like the companies having this majestic decency toward their workers that just has never been the case. Labor laws are the only reason that anything has ever improved here. Companies, if they could, would hire people and pay them $1 an hour if that weren't something that was illegal. They would hire children, have them working in sweatshops. That's why I said I've always been so frustrated with people that try to talk up businesses, and not even, I'm not talking about like the small ones, but like just like whether it's Amazon, Starbucks, Walmart, like try to talk them up as being these innovators and look at what they do for the economy. It's like these are the same bastards that will hire somebody who wants to work full time, part time, and after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they cut their hours even more. They start making vague threats about, hey, if you don't do this the way I like it here, then good luck, goodbye. I mean, these are no friends of workers. The only reason they even hire anybody in the first place usually is to meet a quota, or to like trick you into thinking that they value your contribution to the company. They don't give a damn. None whatsoever. And like I said, this stream is not like an endorsement of Democrats or anything, but the one credit I have to give them is at least they're trying to do something. And that really should show you how rancid American politics are, to where an entire issue like labor, right? Completely undiscussed. Labor is one of the most important topics having to do with people, their jobs, how many hours they get to work, how much they get paid per hour. Um, do they get fired unfairly? What kind of workplace harassment laws do we have? Just things relating to how comfortable do they feel with what is likely their main source of income. This is one of the most important issues in any country. And if you listen to a majority or a plurality of American politicians, they say almost nothing about it. Like, yeah, they'll talk about the economy. Oh, we've made so many jobs. But they don't say, "Hey, are these jobs full-time, part-time? Do they pay 7.25 an hour or something higher?" I mean, I hate that this is attached to that, but do they provide healthcare? Because a lot of people, their healthcare comes from their job. Um, you don't see them discussing it at all. They usually mention the economy and businesses, but they don't actually talk about workers. Are the workers in the union? Are you going to fight to allow them to say to these companies that hire them, if they're treating them non-well, screw you. We're together. We're not going to come back until you give us the wages that we can actually afford to live off of. You don't see that. Like I said, I'll never understand how you can have a person that makes 7.25 an hour, which again, federal minimum wage, 15,000 a year. They can't afford their house because they're just not getting paid enough to live off of that stuff, even if they work 40 hours a week. And you'll have someone who will say, "Oh, that person wants to be poor." They worked every hour that was available for them to work, and your solution to them not being able to afford their stuff is, well, they just wanted to not be able to afford it. They didn't work hard enough. You have to get 2 jobs or 3. We've also talked about a lot of companies will hire somebody as an independent contractor, so that they don't have to give them benefits. They can go, well, this person doesn't actually work for us. And that was something that I learned about from the voice actor community, where a lot of them they'll voice some character in, like, I'm not even joking, 100 episodes of a show, and then the company they're working with is like, no, this person's an independent contractor. So many of them will go to conventions and sign stuff. They like charge maybe like $5, $10. And you've had some voice actors admit that they wouldn't be able to go to the doctor without having to effectively make a side hustle as an autographer. I was like, that's really disturbing that, like, they're so prolific in this profession that they have, which means that these companies that won't give them healthcare clearly value their actual talent as people that are able to emote with their voice. and yet they won't give them the most basic of benefits like healthcare, uh, which again is my biggest problem with this stuff. That whether you're a voice actor, whether you're an Amazon employee, whether you serve coffee at Starbucks, these companies they just don't care. And everything is about meeting their bottom line. And if you're not able to do that, they have no use for you. They don't care if you work there 40 hours a week and they cut your hours to 20. They don't care if you can't afford your place. They don't care if you've been unemployed for years. Because up to that, if everything were left up to employees, they would see you dead or living in such squalid conditions that you might as well be deceased. They'd pay you the lowest that they possibly could, maybe 25 cents or a dollar. And then while you're sitting there sleeping in your car, they would have you work 40 hours one week and then 20 another. They don't care. And that's why I said I don't understand why anyone defends companies, even companies I've worked for. I'll still tell you they were crap. Because like I said, they have no investment in you. Like Schultz talking about, oh, we have a thing where employees can invest in our company. It's like you still will get rid of them anytime you feel like it. You and the rest of your crappy CEOs. If the employees actually mattered, you know what you do? You give them a raise. Hey, here's $2. Hey, here's $3. A billionaire can't afford that. Yeah, I believe that. Like I said, if you actually increase wages substantially, like you go from 20 an hour to 40 an hour, I would agree. Yeah, that's going to make them want to like fire, but they'll fire people anyway. And also going back to my point, when it's marginal, it sounds even more ridiculous. Like if I said, "Hey, person who has a net of 1,000,000,000,000, can you afford to give this person an extra $2 an hour?" Oh, sure. Okay, can you afford to give this whole branch of 30 people an extra $2 per hour? Oh, it's too much. It's like, well, didn't you? Aren't you a billionaire? Don't you're telling me that you can't give people a few more dollars an hour? I could see if it was double, but just a few, 5% increase, 10% increase. Like I said, if I ever start a business, and I don't think I will, because we've already discussed this before. I don't have any particular thing that I'm trying to just get out there. But I would only hire enough people to pay a living wage. I'd rather have a few people employed that actually can afford to live and do the things they want to do as my employee, than a bunch of people who can't, like, who just aren't able to make it even with working for me. That's just me though. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a company. But I find that really interesting that out of all the speeches I've heard, and I've listened to a lot of them from modern politicians, it's on both sides, with a few exceptions, of course. Um, I almost never hear them talk about labor. Like sometimes they'll say, I'm for a $15 minimum wage or I'm against it or whatever, but like actually sitting there and discussing corporate greed and union busting, um, you really are paid family like you almost never hear them say anything about it. Again, every time they discuss something sort of related to this, it's usually just generic blanket statements on the economy. Oh, we created 500,000 jobs. Oh, we hired 700,000 people. But again, there's never an actual discussion on the numbers behind that, the quality of the jobs or just nothing. Just blanket statements that make things sound better than they actually are. Like I said, I feel like there's a very big segment of people who, when something is not going right for like a very long time, they just kind of become complacent with it, like, oh, this is just the way things are. Um, so there are probably people who, because we saw where they said that over 70% of Americans support a union. There probably are people who support it and genuinely would like to join and be part of it, but it's all part of that complacency. Like, well, I'd like to be part of this, but um, I can't because reason. Oh, corporations. The corporation get mad at me. They might fire me. Like, well, I mean, they'd fire you over anything. I'm just saying it's one of those things where I get it. I don't like it necessarily. I think there should be more concentrated efforts to actually improve the quality of life of the average citizen. But I get it. I understand. Not something I like. Not something I endorse. Not something I support. Think is good. I just understand where people can look at this and feel as if there's just feel like a particular sense of dread or hopelessness. And again, it's like I can't say I blame them necessarily, because if I'm looking at things from the standpoint of a person who's trying to get out into the world metaphorically, a lot of people don't even leave their own original community that they're in at this point. Um, I would say, okay, so you got out of high school and you either go to a college that costs way too damn much for someone your age to be able to afford, and take out a bunch of loans that are going to build up over time. So the more money you make, the more they're going to charge. Or you go into the workforce where you're going to get some wage that's so damn low, no matter where you go, that you can't afford to live by yourself and have to either have a roommate or some other, like, all of it sounds like trash. And again, the other issue is that you have these people who are not really thinking about this stuff critically. That's why you have the one guy that said, "Oh, just become a dentist," and completely ignores the fact that there's going to be a separate 2-3 years of having to both go and get educated as a dentist and also be able to afford your bills. So, like, I guess you're supposed to be like create a doppelganger, and one goes to school and the other one works. Just it's stupid. It's dumb. It's not bright. It's not a solution. It's just a person throwing darts at the wall trying to see what sticks. And that's why I said it became harder and harder to have conversations about this when we know that many of the adults who have something to say about it are not thinking critically or in a way that is actually befitting of a suitable and honest discussion about the hardships that someone who's trying to break out in contemporary society may have to deal with. And it's so sad too, because if you had an honest conversation, I think a lot of people would agree. But again, when you're stuck with these individuals that don't want to actually, put their brain in their head, and get ready for some ridiculous comments. It's all par for the course. Like I said, over the last year or so, I've just been kind of noticing some malpractices with companies, and I keep having this inclination to kind of go around and just see how things are doing and how people are and what's up with them. And it's hard. It's hard to sit there and notice how people are doing and not want to, and want to get involved but not really know how to do it. I said before, I do believe that another segment of this is that people in general are not aware of certain things. Like, an Amazon employee probably doesn't know, oh, at Starbucks they have this union busting campaign too. So that's why I said, if I did run for the House, for example, a big chunk of that campaign would be based around spreading awareness. Like, hey, you thought this company was the only one that was bad? Think again. There's this other one that does this. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of, especially with older people, for example, some of them have worked at the same job for 20, 30, 40 years. They've never, they know of Starbucks or Amazon, so because some of them order stuff off of there, but they don't necessarily know how the employees are treated, which really should be, like I said, in a real justice system that persecuted people with power for treating those that didn't have power like trash. All of these CEOs would either be in jail or be paying all types of fees. But like I said, when you have your finger in the pocket of so many damn politicians and respective lawmakers with our legalized bribery from Citizens United, you're just not going to see any attempt to actually go after these people in an aggressive way, which is really unfortunate because, like I said, the main person suffering is the worker. Oh, corporations, man, they're awful. Corporations are bad whether they're hiring you and firing you or giving you a crappy interview where you can't even speak for more than one response. They're just not good. And like I said, I take no pride in admitting that. Because like I said, I'm an American. I have some semblance of patriotism, and I don't like coming on here and going, oh yeah, American corporations are out for themselves. And if you work for one of them, it's basically just a never-ending melting pot of low wages, horrible working conditions, and any attempts to more effort by the company to push back against reforms from unions and other outside groups than actually addressing the stuff internally. Because we said before, reason they don't address it, they don't care. Um, but like I said, I try to tell the truth. So if there's something that I don't think is right, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's good or that it's not as bad as people are making it sound out to be, or sound to be rather. Like I said, crazy part is that the PRO Act isn't even this big, aggressive labor championing like it's putting up to 50,000, which is really nothing for billionaire companies, um on those that violate or found to violate labor practices. And it's like the maximum number on corporations with sometimes billions of dollars is 50,000. So like I said, very very small step in the right direction. And even a bill like that says, hey, we're going to put a little penalty on companies that we find to be committing these malpractice. Even a bill like that can't pass. No chance of passing the House, and most likely no chance of passing the Senate. And again, it's like when you see something in support of labor that is as weak as that, not being able to pass, then that's why people, even the ones that pay more attention to this stuff than others, um, feel discouraged because when you can't even get basic reforms such as the one we just described, then you're going to get irritated. You're going to look at that and say, now wait a second. If they won't even pass a 50,000 penalty bill on companies that violate labor rights for workers, then what hope do we have of actually getting major reforms like higher wages, like paid family leave? I mean, what chance is there for us? Because remember, the same people who are against giving that penalty because they're a corporation are most certainly in support of keeping the minimum wage at 7.25 forever. And you have some states where it's going up to 15, 18. Some are now pushing for 20, and federally, it's going to be it's the same 725. That was in 2009. It's gonna be 2029 or 39. It's still 720 because they don't care. All those rich pricks that sit in the halls of Congress, you think they're sitting over there every hour going, "Oh man, I only get paid 720." No, getting paid 20, 30, 40 times as much. And I'm not even just talking about their congressional salary. I'm talking about, I mean, I said before, they get paid speeches. They get these backdoor deals with these wealthy contributors. There's a whole bunch of little slimy stuff they do to avoid to enrich themselves from their office, I should say. That's why I said it's really scary that you have an entire government, almost damn near, not the whole thing, but pretty much all of it, that whether it's on the state level or the federal level, it's controlled by corporations. It's controlled by corporations to such an extent that they don't even pretend. Well, I'll put it this way. Outside of rhetoric, they don't even pretend to be in favor of workers. So again, they'll say, "I am for the middle class and the forgotten men and women," as one former president used to say, and still does. But do you see them actually like tangible actions they've taken to support working people? And their answer to supporting working people is supporting corporations because they hire people. But as far as, again, the quality of the jobs, making sure the workers aren't mistreated by the people that they work for, they don't. It doesn't bother them at all. They're like, all right, whatever. Work for this company forever and get like 7 an hour. That's fine by me. And that's why I said these companies they're fine with it. They don't care. Oh man, I tell you, I'm in this disenfranchised with a company in a long time. To where you're just sitting there and you're like, really? This is it? This is as good as it gets? So yeah, it's just been really sad. I mean, I'm starting to get flashbacks of my stream from what was that, last Monday? Yeah, where like nobody showed up. And I was just sitting there so lonely. I was like, where did they go? I mean, I guess what kind of gets me is that sometimes there's like a really spirited thing that you're hoping people show up to discuss and they don't, and you're like, all right, whatever. But like I said, I'm not I know there are people that watch stuff on replay too, so that's the other part doesn't bother me as much. It just feels more lively when you have people like writing stuff, even just a small group of people. I swear, I should make like a whole compilation video of all the places I've applied to, and like I'm not even joking. Sometimes on that same website I use, it'll be like, this place would like for you to submit an application, then you apply and then you're nothing back, or a lot of times they'll tell you, unfortunately, we have chosen that. It's just like, if you don't want to hire me, just don't say anything. Just shut up. I said before, why do I need to know that a place that by their sheer silence alone I can already reasonably deduce is not interested in me, doesn't want to hire? Like, why do I have to hear from them, oh, by the way, we don't want you? It's like adding insult into, like, it's not enough to apply somewhere and hear nothing back, but we also have to like inform you that we're not going to hire you. We also have to announce it. And of course, we'll say good luck or whatever. Because there was one like I think I mentioned that dog place I applied to back in either September, October, one of the latter months of last year. But I applied to them over the summer, and they were like, "Oh, we found somebody. Thanks, goodbye." And then, um, sure enough, a couple months later, they're right back to posting their, help wanted sign. And I was just thinking to myself, how many damn times are these places going to tell somebody we don't need you, we have people, and then you're going to see the exact same company because I know what company it was, the exact same company, not even a year later, a few months later, going, "Oh yeah, please, we fired people, now we need more." Like it really turns into a cartoon, just like I mentioned that when I worked for that one crazy place for like a week, and then the stupid lady that ran it was like, he doesn't have the people we're looking for. And then finding out from my recruiter that every person they had after me either didn't show up or barely showed up, and I was like, Jesus, like jobs have like outside of the severity of like you need one to survive, they've really turned into a joke. Like they've turned into this almost um sitcom late night talk show style thing where there's a couple of people that stay on permanently, right? The manager most likely, and then some other subordinates. And the rest of the cast just rotates every week. This week it's me, next week it's Jose. I mean, like this is what they do. Or Gypsy, like it all they do is just flip through people. Hire and fire. Last place I was with, there was a guy who said that he was the new employee of the week to one of the people that worked there. They laughed. Look, and again, it's like I take getting a job seriously in the sense that like I go to interview, I answer all the questions, but it's like as I'm sitting there, I know this is a joke. I know this place is not going to hire me. More likely not is not going to hire me, or if they do, it's going to be for like a week, a few weeks. Um, and it's like I said before, I try to compartmentalize. I try not to think of this stuff, but it just becomes harder and harder the more you see of these things where there's this influx of people that show up. And after a series of weeks or months, they're all gone. And then that same company is right back going, somebody please work for me. Please work for me. We need people. We need people. And I've gotten to a point where even the ones that are begging for people, I don't even trust. Because like I said, I worked for two retailers who did the, whoa, whoa, please, someone sing good. You stayed there for like a month and then they get rid of you. And now they're right back to for more people. Like the whole that's what I'm saying. The entire process of trying to get hired by one of these places is just a joke. It's a joke, it's a gag, it's a farce. Interviewers might as well wear white face paint with red lips. I mean, it's really become impossible for me to sit here and say with conviction that I'm gonna find this job. I'm gonna do such a great job that they're gonna keep me on, and I'll stay there for multiple months or a year, and then I might even be maybe I can't believe that. I think and this is based entirely off of experiences with these places. You can do every single thing that these bastards want you to do and still get fired. You saw this with the last retailer I worked for. I was learning how to memorize certain things within days of being there, and they would just jump from one thing to something else. Oh, you didn't inform us that the floor was clear. Well, you didn't tell me I had to inform you. Oh, you didn't know which key opens the drawer. Well, there's like 50 keys on one little keychain. So what I'm saying is these places, if they want to get rid of somebody, they will. And they'll have no problem doing that because they know that when they give you your pink slip, they have somebody else that they're gonna predictably do the same thing to. But for the time being, they're fresh and new and they're excited about them. But this is the process where there's a couple of people that stay on permanently, and then the rest is this rotating cast of characters. Somebody once said that working for jobs out here, and they're not talking about California, they're talking about America, is like being on what was that cartoon called? Total Drama Island, where like every season it's like mostly different characters, or like after a while it starts turning to like mostly different characters. It's like every week or month there's a bunch of new people you never seen them before. Just this constant rotating and shifting. And like I said, do you really want to sit here and work for some company and know from the time you fill out your application and go for your stupid interview that within a couple of weeks they're going to be like goodbye? And that's one of the things that made it to where I didn't even pursue for a long time trying to get a place to live alone because of how unstable it was. And that's been the biggest problem over here, just in general, just the instability of it all. Like, you can work somewhere and they show you how to do all this stuff, and then within 3 weeks they're telling you goodbye. It's a joke, man. It's all just a big joke. And like I said, I went to this, a lot more optimistic than I currently am. My cynicism has increased to all record highs. Big giant gains have been made there. Like I said before, like I never believed in the past that you could have places do this kind of stuff where they're like, you want to work for us? Well, first you have to do this, and then after you do that, we're going to get mad at you for this, and then after you improve on that, we're going to get mad at you for. But that's what they do, and I've given multiple examples of that as well. So, like I said, I've got two interviews scheduled, one today, one tomorrow. The one for tomorrow is going to be like an hour-long drive, and I'll try to pretend I'm excited. I'll try to, sound enthusiastic. I think I do a decent job of that. But as far as do I actually believe that things are going to improve? No. I think we're going to see another year of applying, hearing nothing back, getting blamed for it because I get blamed for every damn thing. And then, the cycle repeats itself until my eventual demise. So you can call me negative. I'm just going off of patterns. When you give these companies everything, and when I say everything, I'm talking about you're available anytime they want you to be there. Anything they tell you to do, you do it, and they're still like goodbye. You just get sick of it. And they do not. And the crazy part is you see so much of the contradictions in very basic areas. I mean, we were talking about how when I worked for the company from the year before last year, there was a period where the manager tried to sound like they were this really understanding person. Oh, you can work right away. Great. I want to start training you. And then within a couple of days, my first day of actually being in the kitchen, I get threatened with being fired. If you don't improve by next time, we're letting you go. And this is coming from the same stupid prick that when they hired me, knew I didn't know how to do this stuff. So it's kind of like that's why I felt as shocked as I did, because you pretend when you hire the person that you care about seeing them grow and learn how to do this stuff, but in reality you're on this extremely short time crunch to get everyone to robotically be perfect in 5 seconds. And I just didn't have that in me. Sorry, it couldn't work out was the last thing that stupid bastard said to me. Like I said, employers are just a really lousy group of people. They sit there, they lie, they say one thing, do the other. And again, it's like who believes this stuff? I wish I could juggle, man. I wish. Um, it's hard to get excited. It really is. And a lot of it is nerve wracking. It's nerve wracking to have to keep restarting. Oh, here's this company that I was getting a little bit used to, and now I have to go and learn how to do something else because they want to get rid of me after a few weeks. It's just a really rancid process. It's even worse when you have people who are not supportive of you. because I contemplated making this stream about um this person and their ultimatum that they gave me a few days ago. Uh, but I decided I'm gonna wait about maybe until at least Saturday, maybe until next weekend or next Monday rather, to see what happens with both these places and with this person. Basically, I'm being asked to do something that I think is completely ridiculous and is brought upon by their having a like throwing a temper tantrum like a child, and I just don't have the patience to, put up with their ridiculousness. But again, I'll go more into that depending on how they act after today, or not today, after this week. Um but there's just been this constant influx of instability where it's like every time you turn your back, someone gets so angry to where they're like, I will fire you, I will kick you out. I'm sick of it. When I spoke to the interviewer I think it was on Friday. It might have been Friday. Oh yeah, it was Friday. When I spoke to the interviewer, they were sounding, uh, like they enjoyed speaking to me. They said they admired my dedication because I was willing to drive like an hour over to wherever they are. And I was just like thinking to myself, because I swear it's like PTSD. I started thinking about when I went to this one interview back in September, and it was for some packing company, and it was the same thing with the person who interviewed me there. They laughed and giggled and grinned, and they make it sound like they're very interested in you and in hiring you, but really they're plotting your downfall from the moment you walk through the door. So it's not easy getting excited for this stuff. It's just going through the motions. I said before, I think a lot of people do that with regard to their things. Like I feel like when you see a lot of these different couples, for example, um, and we've talked about this before, how no, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to. I'll leave that alone. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that are supposed to be enjoyable, or that are supposed to like have something else to it that makes you want to do it, and it's sad how so many jobs are just, well, I have to do this because if I don't, I won't have any money. Like I remember I had a tutor who said that everyone has a job where there's some part of it they hate. Um, I don't know. I've heard of some people like actually having fun when they punch in and speaking to people. And even when I worked for the last place I was working for, yeah, there were some parts I didn't like, and that was mainly because if you don't do it, anytime you have like a cleaning job and you don't do it the exact way that someone said to do it, they freak out, lose their minds. So that was the only part that was kind of like to me. But just like the general activities, going up here, going down there, I was fine with it. I made jokes and spoke to different people that were there. I mean, it just wasn't a thing where I really felt as if I was, I guess, what's a good way of putting it? Like I didn't feel as though I was bored for, I'd say, most of it. Maybe when I was just by myself doing something, and I did mention there was a coworker that I didn't feel particularly comfortable around after, I mentioned that in the speed up session stream I did, but I'm just saying that, like, for me, a lot of times if I work a job, I try to find ways to make it fun for myself, and it just seems like to assume that anything you have is just going to be this really lame, horrible, boring thing. It just feels really defeatist to me. Like there will be a part of this job that you hate. Well, I mean, good luck explaining to me what part of it that is. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy for trying to. I don't. I get insulted over a lot of stuff. I didn't think I get insulted over. I'm sure that'll just be part of it. Man, holding a book from the 80s is so fun. It's always interesting when people can keep something in good condition for a long time. But yeah, this past weekend was fairly eventful. I tried to hang out with my friend and he was busy. He said he would call me on Sunday, but didn't. Uh, got caught up doing whatever type stuff. So on Sunday, I decided to fulfill. The way this goes is that back in 2014, this is when I was in like middle of high school. Um, I had a relative who drove me to the Reagan Library, and I thought it was so cool because that was when I was first getting into this stuff and just kind of wanted to actually physically see some of the things there. And I loved the trip. I loved being able to walk up in the Air Force One. I liked being able to see the little different artifacts they had from his life. It was interesting to me. Only regret I had was I didn't bring any glasses because I've need those to like read things that are far away. Um, so this same person who I'm no longer on good terms with, I had well, this is before that happened because you can't predict the future, but I had asked them like after we went, hey, can we go to the Nixon Library? And they said we would do it, and we never did. Not because they were so incredibly busy or they got caught up being no, they just didn't care. They said one thing and then didn't follow through with it. And that really hurt because when they said it, I trusted them. I trust them because when I asked them, can we go to the Reagan Library, they said, yep, we'll do it next Saturday. And we went next Saturday, February 2014. I remember the month. I remember the day. It was not a thing I was used to them where they like took me on some long-term trip and we actually went to a place they said we would go. So that's why every year after that happened, I just kept remembering that they didn't take me there, even though they said they would. But remember, if you complain about people saying they'll do something and then not doing it, you're entitled somehow because it's always the entitled people who are told that they'll receive something and then when they don't receive it are not allowed to be upset over it. Um, but yeah, I went up there, or I guess I should say I went there to the Nixon Library yesterday, and it's probably the best Sunday I've had all year. Just it was nice being able to go in there. They have a little introductory film, and then you walk through it and see the different artifacts that they have. And the only regret I had was I wasn't able to take someone as well, um, because there are several other people I think would have a good time going up there. Yeah, it was nice. The staff was pretty fun. They knew what they were talking about. You'd ask them questions and they would be able to respond. They actually volunteered a lot of stuff. Like they have this little display of the astronauts from I think it was Apollo 11. Um, and you can like pose in front of it and it's on the wall. So I did like I wouldn't have even noticed without one of them mentioning that it was like higher up on the wall to where I couldn't have seen it. Um just a really fun trip for me. The only part that wasn't fun was that my, navigation system on my car was acting up after I got out, so I had to, like, hold my phone in like, one hand and steer with the other, which is always really irritating because that thing I'm telling you, it works when it wants to and doesn't work when it doesn't want to, and it can be really obnoxious. Just because, like, let's say you go somewhere far that you don't really know the specific way back to wherever you came from, and you're like, okay, well, I can just go and use the GPS to locate that area again. It's like, yeah, you can, but you're gonna if the car acts up, then you have to look at the phone while you're also trying to look at the road. It's just that was the only part I didn't like, but that wasn't the museum's fault. But yeah, I'll probably go back at some point. It was it was nice. I just wish that the person who said they would take me would have taken me because that's something that definitely would have been really magical if I had been allowed to go 9 years ago or in any of the subsequent years after that. And it's crazy too because I'm not even the kind of person that um in the like I don't necessarily call it a grudge, but I never forgot that they promised they would take me there and then never did. And with me, I'm not the kind of person who's going to keep asking someone to do something. So if they don't do it once, I'll probably just not mention it again. But yeah, it was nice to finally go up there. Oh man. That drive was really not that bad either. It's mostly it kind of reminds me of that freeway from Birmingham to Atlanta where it's just going straight for, X number of miles. Except of course it was I didn't go on the freeway for this instance. I used the regular, I guess, streets. So there was some traffic. But other than that, I had fun. And I'm hoping that I can probably I've got at least two other people I'd like to go up there with. One of them is constantly busy and has a schedule that's all over the place to where I don't even know if he knows what he's doing tomorrow. But yeah, besides that, it was decent. It was nice. And unlike the Carter Library, I didn't really record or take pictures of that much stuff because I'll go up there again. Since the Carter Library is in a whole other state, I wanted to like preserve as much of that as I could. So that was why when I was in there, I was just recording and recording and recording. But yeah, other than that, it was fun. They had some nice statues, some really decent exhibits. Although I did notice, and I don't like pointing this out, but I feel compelled to that when I went there, it was probably which was a weekend. It was like maybe 12 people, and I keep pointing out that like when I see that, there's a part of me that's kind of I wouldn't say sad, but sort of disappointed that there's I don't know. I guess I mentioned before that with my perspective, with this stuff meaning something to me, if I had that as close to me as some people have it, I would go regularly. Um, but with others, they never even go there at all. So it's just one of those things where it's like, man, I wish that this was a more frequented tourist attraction, or even an attraction that would be seen by people that stay here. Yeah, it's just nice to be able to have something you wanted to do, and even if it took a long time to actually get it, you eventually did receive it. What was I gonna say here? I'm trying to think what else. There was something else I was gonna mention about the place where sometimes when I'm driving, it feels like the blind spot or like an area you can't see just gets magnified. I pulled out of the parking lot, and every time I pull out, I'm always looking both ways, which is usually like right behind me to make sure like I don't hit anything or there's nothing coming. and there's this big hedge right on the side, little hedge of grass, or I guess leaves, whatever. And I pull out of the part, so this is where the hedge is. And all of a sudden, I see like several people walking over into the where the part where you would drive in. It's like, man, if I was a more careless driver, I could have hit them. So that was another memorable part. Keep getting all these spam emails, not emails, but messages from different people wanting me to donate. This indictment thing has been all over the news. I didn't even make a video about it because I don't care enough. My thing is, unless uh he actually goes to jail, I don't it's not going to be something I'm really interested in, because we've seen people get sued and again facing criminal charge, and like nothing happens to them. That's why I don't care. It's just they have too much plot armor. They can just get away with anything. Mm. There was a part of me that actually, when I came out of there, felt somewhat sad because I think I mentioned before that when you have people that you're, I guess, close to, and then you like one by one, they're not there anymore. Um, and you and them had like something in common. So there's this, like you fill that void even more. It's just an unfortunate series of circumstances. But yeah, I tried to look on the bright side because that was definitely a bright side. I had a decent time. I looked at things. I was there for probably an hour. Um, I'd say hour and a half. I left at 10 something, and it was like right after they opened at 11. So I think I got my worth out of there. But it's definitely a place I'll visit again. Just hopefully with some of my other favorite characters. Yeah, it's been a really the last few months been quite a ride. So much instability, so much just craziness, threats, and all types of attempts to make you nervous or uncomfortable, and I just don't really appreciate it. I mentioned before, this one person was like, "Why didn't you get me anything from the when I went to the cardboard library?" And I was like, What is there for me to get you from there? You don't read, so I can't get you a bookmark or a book. Um, you you don't want a baseball. Like what is there for remotely for me to get you? What's this? Still no videos on that article. I'm unsubscribing. Oh yeah, well look, I'm trying to make it. It's just today and tomorrow are pretty jam packed. Like right after I do, because I have an interview that's like scheduled an hour, so it's gonna literally be like right after I end the stream. I'm gonna be called by this person. Then I have another one that's gonna be like an hour-long drive tomorrow. So really it just comes down to there's a lot of stuff happening each day up until at least Wednesday. So like I said, I'll try to finish it this week. Most of the script is done. Most of it's been recorded. I just have to sit down with it, and I haven't really been able to do that. Now, Megumi, before you showed up, I read an article that was about a union victory that was gained in New York last year. There was a union of Amazon workers that all got together and defeated Amazon in court. And everybody thought, oh my God, this is going to be the resurgence of unions. But instead, what happened was Amazon, because they just refused to ever concede anything, they went and to court and over again kept seeking out, basically delaying, like not sitting down with the union that had defeated them. So a year later, even though the union won, they still have achieved nothing because Amazon won't meet with them to discuss any, to negotiate whatsoever. And it's, man, these corporations, they are some real demons. And people act like if you're anti-corporation and pro-worker, you're trying to like tell people. It's like, no, I said before, if you want to shop at Walmart or, I mean, I use the internet at Starbucks. So you can criticize and not like these companies and then still, because I'm not going to tell people not to shop at Amazon. Amazon accounts for apparently half of all online purchases, or even more. So that's not even a realistic thing I would propose. If you see something on there you want, you can go get it if you want to. It's not up to me to decide that. Hope you've been good as of late. Well, I'm trying to. I very much considered making the most blame man of all time 4. I think that's going to come within the next week or so. Because if you heard some of the crazy stuff happening off screen, would you say that is a wasted effort? Well, they didn't know when they organized the union. Like if you get a court victory against a billion-dollar company, you're going to think, "Oh yeah, we did it, we won," and then you know I think pretty reasonably they assumed something good would come out of it, but really nothing has. So I guess maybe in retrospect, but I don't like playing 11th hour quarterback. So I'd rather just admit that I think they tried and they didn't get the result they wanted, but I would rather say at least they, made an effort. I guess it's better to have tried and failed than to not have tried. I don't know how the saying goes, but you get the idea. I'm not going to get mad at these people for making an attempt. Oh, these companies. Fourth installment. I am down for that. Yeah, because if you hear some of the crazy stuff that's been happening, I think you'll be surprised. I mean, just imagine someone being mad every single day. Like they could stay home from work and be upset. They can go to work and be upset. They can be mad if you said something to them. They can be mad if you said nothing to them. They can be mad if you washed your clothes. They can be mad if they had to wash your stuff. I mean, it's crazy. It is just it's nuts. Anger and rage and just bad mood every day. Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And they might have their little occasions where they smile or whatever, but that's temporary. Oh yeah, well, I had no intention of that just being 3. It's just that usually there's a series of lousy circumstances that kind of just propels me to make one of those. Like back in November, getting a job and then having someone like talk, like lie on you and say that every job you have you quit really pissed me off. Because again, it's like the inherent laziness of it all, where you can't even ask somebody why are you no longer working here. You just assume they just stopped because they didn't want to work there anymore. So it's just one of those things where, based off of the way things are currently going, we're going to get a remake of the events of a few months ago. Like it's just everything just repeats itself over and over. I'm not even joking. Sometimes I've like had stuff happen. Like, this kind of reminds me of this. This kind of like as it's happened. Like, wait, so this is a redo of this other thing that happened. Sounds like you needed a more extended holiday slash trip. Well, I came back early because that same person was losing their mind and like sending a whole, but just like being really annoying. And I felt like I saw everything that I really wanted to see out there. Um, and they were already upset with me before I left over something stupid. So it's one of those things where even if I had stayed until Friday as I originally intended, they still probably would have been angry because that's their default emotion. Just bad mood every day. Anger, 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 rage. I'm tired of having to look at the screen and zoom in like I'm going to use these. I'm telling you, if you saw some of the things you do to try to like not have stuff pop off, and really, just as like a little preview, I'm just going to say this: when people feel like they have power over you because you live under their roof or whatever, the more unstable that person is, the more they will convince themselves that they can get rid of you under any circumstance, over any little petty ridiculous thing. So for example, um would you like to have a place to live when you come back? It's like that's a person who's so angry that you locked your door, which they themselves do all the time, that even though you're saying, hey, when I come back I'll unlock, this person can clean it, they're angry that you won't. So you're not against of unlocking it a short time later, but because of that little 10-20 minutes of it being locked, even though it's been unlocked all damn day and the person hasn't cleaned it, they're like enraged. How dare you? And the same something similar that kind of happened on what was that, on Saturday, where there's just this constant anger and this belief that it, like, basically this comes down to, if a person that you supposedly live under the roof of has something they want you to do, and if you don't do it to the exact detail that they want it to be done, they will be prepared for them to threaten to kick you out or to get rid of you. So, like for example, if I said, Megumi, I want you to take out the trash at 5:30 tomorrow, and you take it out at 5:50, I'll say, Megumi, I looked on my clock. You didn't take the trash out exactly when I wanted you to. Get out of here. You're going to be gone. You'd be like, what the hell? You got what you wanted. What's the issue? Oh, because they didn't do it the specific exact way, exact time that you had preferred. That's why I said, man, they're just some really insane people, and they've been able to take advantage of a really garbage situation of lousy employers don't want to hire anybody, and a bunch of places for rent that just cost too damn much. So because of those two things, they feel like they can just kind of throw me around any way they want, but they're going to be in for a rude awakening because I'm not putting up with it. Like I said, I miss the stability of before this past September. I really do. Really is a huge unfortunate circumstance to be in. It's literally insufferable. Yeah, and you try as you may to do to not have a conflict with them. And I swear to you, the one if there's one instance of deviation from what they want, it's the end of the world. It's like you have committed treason. I mean, man, it's hard to put up with this stuff. It really is. And like I said, I wish things were better. I wish I could come on here and say, "Oh, I have all these jobs offering me work, and they keep you on for a year," but I can't. Um, and when your support system is pretty much non-existent and barely even qualifies as support, then you can see the same deterioration. I tell you, my favorite gag was that this person claimed to have loved me because they paid rent where I lived, even though they only paid it because it was somewhere that they themselves wanted to stay. So it wasn't actually about me. And we know it wasn't because after I left, they're still doing it over there. So I was just there by happenstance. I tell you, they love that revisionist history where they pretend like they've done so much for you. And like I said, Saturday was a real window into the ridiculousness that over here happens almost daily because I didn't have to do anything. I was just sitting in here. This person comes and you hear them talking crazy. Uh, like just I was having a decent stream, just speaking whatever, and they devolved into that. They, said the things that they said, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to secretly record them or none of that. Just I was just sitting here. They're talking so loud you can hear them through the door, and then I just got up and left after that, thinking that I was diffusing the situation by not arguing back and forth with them. But sure enough, they found a way to get upset over something else, escalated because that's all they do, and it's just really unfortunate. I had the spin artist when we argued back in December try to say that I am not a victim, and I said in response to him, and I've even had some people say, "Much." I was like, I don't call myself a victim. What I do say is that oftentimes there are circumstances out of our control that we are affected by, in which others may try to take advantage of or otherwise blame us for them as if we are specifically the cause for, just like when we were talking about the romance video. In that video, I have a line in there where I mention how knowing that it's 60% of young guys that are like not with a woman in America actually confirms it's like a normal thing to just not be with the woman, but also that this narrative that people, because for years people pushed this narrative that if you weren't with a woman, you were weird, you were ugly, you were unconfident, all this nasty negative crap has been proven to be a load of garbage because it's not like it's 10% or 15 or 5% or even 20, like this little weird fringe group of guys that can't get, well, it's a majority of them. So that's why I was saying that when you look at statistics like 63% of Americans with paycheck to paycheck, and then you tell somebody, oh, you should be able to take care of yourself, I was able to. It's like, yeah, that's BS. When you see such a large number of people with the same, I mean, like, it would be one thing if I went outside and not only were there no homeless people, everybody's driving a Lamborghini and they're all working at these jobs, and like it's just a utopia, right? It's the reverse of that. They have a thing over here called tent cities where people who are homeless set up tents and camps and sites together, and have a community of just people who don't have somewhere to live. Oh, it's a very high percentage of guys, and that's why. And I made the point in the video. People say, "Oh, you're weird." I would be more weird if I was with a woman than not. Like, it's actually normal to just not be with one of them at this point. I'm sorry to say this, but they really sound that they are in desperate need to be in an asylum. Well, look, all I'm gonna say is I'm going to wait and see how things turn out this week and in the coming weeks, and then if they get more and more ridiculous, then I'll become more like descriptive with the stuff that's happening. Because, like I said, I'm just these people. They care a lot more about their reputation than I do about mine. I'll put it that way. Like they're more embarrassed by the stuff that they hide than me. I'm actually very transparent. No, whenever you have a high percentage that numbers in a majority, when people try to shame you over it, they look like idiots. Because even without that number, I just had this gut feeling that it's not just a couple of guys. Like there's a whole bunch of men that aren't online that just are not with a woman. Like they might some might complain about it, some might have just not even bothered, some actively sought them out, didn't get anything back. But the point is, a lot of men are just not with a woman. So to sit here and be like, you are weird, and that's why you don't, it's just it's trash, man. But anytime you have high statistics about some large group of people having the same issue, it makes the people who try to like specifically shame you look insane. I just wish people who were in those circumstances had more sympathy for each other. Like the same person who lives paycheck to paycheck is like, if you do something I don't like, I'll make you homeless. That's the type of stuff that I really despise. But then remember, it's not about right or wrong. It's about power. And whenever they feel like they can't control every single thing you do, and you have a little bit of deviation from their script, they lash out. You don't even have to do something illegal. Akatsuki Merchant, you said something during one of my streams that I have to admit made me roll my eyes. I was talking about the ongoing situation with these lousy relatives, and you wrote something to the effect of, "This is why I live alone. No one can tell me that I'm going to be homeless." I'm like, you do realize that that's not a choice of mine, right? That if I had the choice, I would have been by myself a long time ago. If I could snap my fingers and have a 40-hour a week job in some apartment that doesn't cost an arm and a leg to live in, I would have done that years ago. So you're telling us of your decision in contrast to a person who doesn't have a decision or choice to make, either than live with some people who have varying levels of patience for you or be homeless. Neither of which is an ideal situation or preferred by me. Very unfortunate circumstances, need to pick your poison. I mean, the thing is, when I don't have access to a microwave or I guess like different utensils, I'm more inclined to eat less. And I don't even eat that much anyway. I maybe eat twice a day, so I'm not really worried about the food aspect of it all. I'm more so disturbed by even the idea that you have to like constantly be uprooted from where you are. Like, oh, you'll be with this person for a few months before they threaten you. You'll be with this person for a few weeks before they get mad over something stupid and threaten you. It's like really what I miss so much is just having a relative who you could argue with. Maybe there's sometimes you have, because people who live together, they argue. And not and it's like you can argue with them and they won't threaten to kick you out every time they get mad because they're not insane. Like they actually have like a little bit of concern for you, like like a bare minimum. It's hard to deal with these people, I tell you. Because like I said, in one breath they'll act like they're on your side so much and they care so much about you, but if you actually sit there and listen to the things they say and see their actions, don't believe it. Yeah, that's a really insane thing to say, especially to a relative as well, threatening to kick people out if they get even annoyed in the slightest. Well, that's why I said that when you hear what happened, if I eventually get to telling it on Saturday, I just want you to understand it's not about someone not doing what you wanted them to do. It's about someone not doing it the specific way you wanted them to do it. So again, that's why I give you these like examples because they're basically me at saying what it is without saying it. It would be like if I told you to go to the market and pick up and buy me some water or buy me these specific food items, right? I send it to you on your phone and you buy all this stuff, but I tell you, hey, use regular cash instead of a credit card because I don't like it when people buy me things with a credit card. That's my weird hang up, right? And you buy the stuff with the card. So I get the things I wanted from you, right? But because you didn't buy it with money, regular money instead of the card, I'm angry at you and I'm telling you, you can get out of here and oh my god, you disobeyed me and disrespected me and how could you do this? So I got the end result I wanted, which was the food, but I'm mad that you used regular cash instead of, or excuse me, use the card instead of regular cash. Even though the end result's the same, I'm angry that you didn't do every single thing the way I wanted you to. There's only so much you can do. It's not like you'll be able to get hired reliably for a job and move out. Yeah, they think that because you live under their roof, that means you're their slave. Well, Megumi, that's my point. That if you get the end result that you want, why do you care if there was like a part of that that wasn't specifically the way you would have wanted? Because trust me, this person, they received the end result that they want, but because everything wasn't done the exact way that they would have preferred, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I'm just tired of the insanity of it all. These people get mad over stupid things. They show their lack of concern every day by making these vague threats. And like I said, they'll turn on you faster than you can say, damn. They'll go from saying how much they care about you to, oh, you did one thing I didn't like. Goodbye. And remember, they even if you do things for them that are actually of some utility or assistance to them, they don't care because to them, the stuff you do is nothing and you're just disposable crap. I mean, you can pay a bill and they'll still they'll have the exact same perspective. You can actively feed someone else and they'll still have the same position. You think I'm kidding? Even if you pay a bill or like actually contribute in some financial way, like readily and reliably, they still don't care. They still will threaten you. But again, that's why appeasement doesn't work. That's why when you try to appeal to these people and do little things to curry favor with them, why bother? Because if someone can get mad at you for something and then you try to de-escalate it and then they move to something else, it's just a never-ending cycle of you attempting to appeal to someone who can't be reasoned with or bargained with. Like, I'm mad at Megumi on Monday about the shower head. I'm mad at him on Tuesday about the toilet. I'm mad at him on Wednesday about the food he ate. It's just, again, that no matter what you do, they're going to find something to get angry over. And then they'll be upset when you don't argue with them. They'll be mad if you respond back and defend your position. And they'll be even more upset if you just don't say anything. You're like, all right, whatever. I can't, there's nothing I can do here. They said to me, I'm talking. He's like, what do you want me to say? Like, seriously, with a lot of these people, it gets to a point where I don't say anything because I know nothing I say makes a difference. Whatever BS agenda they're pushing, they'll continue on with it. And usually, if you try to respond in an aggressive or assertive way, it just escalates it even further. And it's no matter what you do, will just anger them further. A lot of things happen in a way I didn't anticipate, but I just accepted because I achieved the thing I was trying to do. I told you, I wish these bastards, because these people, some of them have been working the same job for like 20 years, 30 years. I wish they had to go out and apply to these positions. We'll see how easy it is to get hired. And like I said, I'd even further love to see them go out and try to live off of one of these jobs. That would be even funnier. Make 2,400 a month, and then have to spend all of it except a couple $100s, and tell me that that's simple. Seriously, a lot of the reasons why they think it's easy to get a job is because 10, 20, 30 years ago it was easier, and they haven't actively sought out a position since then. I would love to see them try this stuff. They wouldn't make it. It's like the lousiest support system ever, man. These people will trade on you. I feel the same way. You think I'm kidding? If you go back to like previous decades, you can actually pull up statistical facts of simpler things, whether it means stuff costs less. Just like um some of the prices of these schools out here have ballooned by, not, I'm not even joking, like 70, 80, 90%. You had some colleges you could go there for like a few $100s. Now it's thousands. And it's like the same people who went to school 30, 40 years ago for like 500, $600 now want to wag their finger at you when you don't want to pay 8,000 to go to that same school, as a person just that just got a high school, or makes 15 an hour. Like, it's nuts. That's why I say when people aren't affected by something, they don't care. This person has really convinced themselves, because they send me like applications, and the stuff they send me, it really is like the textbook example of throwing darts at a wall and trying to see what sticks. They'll send me applications where on there they say you must have 2 years of experience as whatever, right? Something that is a tangible thing of that I don't have, like, as just by virtue of the position, something I can't do because I don't have the experience that they want. And they'll still send that to me, and they'll be shocked when I don't apply. It's like, why would I apply to that? But it's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world to apply to places over and over again and then have these people who are so lazy. And when I say lazy, I'm talking about they can't be bothered to just ask you, "Hey, did you apply anywhere today? Are you going to go for an interview this week?" They're so lazy they can't even ask that. They'll just assume, "Well, I didn't see him go anywhere, so he must not be applying anymore." So, hey, 3 interviews between today and tomorrow. I did one of them right before the stream started. I'm doing another one at 12:30. Got to drive somewhere tomorrow, and it's like it's crazy how you can just do everything that these people want, and they'll make up things about you that are easily proven to be false. Um, I mean, it's just like I'm tired of it. I really am. Well, Jim, I at the start of the stream I described the interview I had where the person that was interviewing me, they asked me, there was like 5 people. They asked everybody a question, or 4 people rather, and I didn't really answer that much because it's like a little short question that's less than a minute long. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to ask us some follow up stuff because, like, why else would you have an interview with this many people in here, or with, like, why even bother going to this effort if it's just going to be? But sure enough, it was one question. They talked for like 10 minutes, and then they went off. And I was like, that's one of the worst interviews I've ever had, where I answered a question assuming that I'd be able to, like, because again, interviews I've had before are back and forth. They ask you stuff, you answer it. One question, and then later today we'll send you a message at 5 or 7 o'clock on whether you got the job or not. Yeah, Megumi, that was my reaction. Wait, what? That you get asked one question and they talk for 8 minutes and then they jump off. Jim says, I love that. Best interviews ever. Where can I sign up for this amazing job? He said, this sounds like a great position. I'm telling you, all the interviews I've ever been on, whether they're in person or on the computer or over the phone, I've never seen one where they ask you one question and then they talk for another like 10 minutes and then they drop everybody off the call. I've never seen that before. That's a brand new experience for me. The one question interview. I was really shocked. I was like, that's it? You sure you didn't attend a sitcom or something? I told you all like there is a seriousness with regard to trying to get work, having people that threaten to kick you out, but a lot of this stuff really does feel like a joke. Like when that person was talking and then they just abruptly cut off, I thought there was going to be a laugh track playing in the background where a bunch of people just giggling. Just poor management, poor managers. What Magumi says, what the hell is that? A lousy interview? A lousy garbage interview that yeah, it's a complete waste of time. And like I said, I got up this morning really, to like be up for it. So I even had my brother wake me up before he left. It's like, man, I really took this seriously, and it was all for what? For them to ask me one question, talk about their stupid business and how it's growing and booming, and oh my god, it's so amazing, and then drop off the call after basically giving a speech. That was so lame. I don't ever want to apply to that place again. Because believe me, that's one of those places where they're definitely going to put up a what do you call it? What's that thing called? Where it's like a bunch of you know what I'm talking about? Where they put up the interview and they make it sound like they got somebody, and after maybe like 2-3 months they'll be back begging for someone to show up. Because I've recognized that pattern now, where I've applied to places in the past and heard nothing back, and then you apply to them again. They're like, "Hey, how are you?" Complete waste of time. Yep, I've done the same thing before too. It's really comedic. A Costco merchant says they want to test people, but it's like, a-hole, I didn't apply to do your weird psychoanalysis test. I applied for a job. Just say you don't want to hire and stop with this roundabout. And I guess what gets me is that when you have positions that you're like not, you're fairly confident you're not going to get it, to sit here and listen to them talk about, we hired this person and now they make 100,000 a year and we'll pay you for your trip. It's like, okay, but what is there to suggest you're going to hire me? Like you're basically just sitting there listening to them brag about how great their business that you're not going to work at is. And you feel even less comfortable knowing how many other people are applying for the damn job. I think I mentioned I went to I'll never forget when I went to that interview for that bakery and I sat down with the manager. They said some things I kind of thought was exciting at like the prospect of working there. And then he mentioned that they had 4 jobs open, like 4 openings for positions, right? And 40 people applying for them. And I always mention that story because it's like if I knew how many people were applying for that little short number of jobs, I wouldn't have even bothered. But again, if somebody doesn't have a job, they don't want to work. That's their narrative they push every time. They don't want to work. I apply to all these jobs for fun. And also accept all the ones that hire me. Like it has to be something really ridiculous for me to not want to do it. There's this one place where they want me to drive. I think it's like 50, 67. It's like a whole other part of the damn state. And their thing is they're saying, oh, well, after you go and get in our office and register with us, we'll have stuff that's closer by. It's like, yeah, but I can't waste all this gas on a place that, I mean, let's keep it real. After a week or so, they can be like, all right, goodbye. So that's one of the few instances where I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. The exact same company I applied for rejects my application after I did the interview. Will have their job advert back up in a few hours, and it's been like that ever since. I think I told you about the one. I don't even know if it was Amazon, but there was some delivery driver company, and they were like, when I sat down for you, the first thing they said over Zoom, this is a hard job. We've had 2 people quit on their first day in the last 2 weeks, and you'll be on the move constantly. You'll be delivering 300 packages every day, so get ready to sweat. And I've never walked out of an interview not wanting the job then like before I went in there. Like I either go in already like, all right, I want to do this or whatever. But like that's the only time I've ever had an interview where it just made me completely disinterested in working for them. First thing I was about, this is a hard job. And we've had 2 people quit in their first day in the last 2 weeks. It's like I see why. 300 packages, and remember, you can't get a drink of water. So you'll be seeing that same company doing that again, where they have these. I think I mentioned before, it's all based like on that same belief system of if we just keep looking, we'll find somebody. But when you have ridiculous desires of like what an employee is supposed to be, where they have to be perfect in every regard and way, you're going to keep being disappointed. I remember them telling me they had been trying for months to find one more person for the role. And think of how crazy that is. They can't find one more person for their job. Or maybe they have and they keep firing them. And where did Jim go? I don't know where Jim went. He showed up, made his cameo, and then he left. He made his brief, quick appearance, and then he initiated the disappearance. I'm very disappointed. I was very looking forward to talking to Jim, but then he just vanished on me. No, the job stuff really is a revolving door, and they go through people like I don't know. You might change shirts like they're just every couple of weeks you can expect to find someone else working there. And like I said, I have no sympathy for these companies because they don't care about their employees. They'll throw you away like an empty potato chip bag. So yeah, don't be too surprised that you see that now hiring sign. The retailer I work for, they were doing the same thing. Now hiring, now hiring. Oh, and it like that whole trajectory drove me crazy. Because it's like when you go to the interview, the manager's like, "You're the first person to actually show up to the interview." And it's like, "Oh, they must really need people." And then when you actually work for them, they're threatening to get rid of you after 2 weeks, and you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, I see why people don't apply anymore." Megumi says another job saying how they are needing to get through over 100 applicants. So if you don't hear back from us, you haven't been selected. Yeah. And the people they do select are so lousy that they're going to be right back begging for more people. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention this. So when we had the virus and they increased benefits for like different workers that were, being quarantined or were just not going in for work, a lot of our politicians were angry that people weren't going back to work, saying that they were lazy, didn't want to work, whatever. But Magumi, I'm going to ask you something. If you can either work a job where you can't make enough or receive benefits while staying at home, which one are you going to pick? Like you can either go into the office and get such a lousy salary that you can't live off of it, or get some benefits and just sit on the couch. I wonder which one is tempting. Because the thing about retirement is that it's supposed to be not as appealing as working, as far as like if you want more money because it doesn't pay you as much. But the amount you're making from your job is already not enough, or it's like it's not enough anyway. That was always one of my favorite stories. Like people are not going back to their jobs that don't pay them enough to live. Wow, I can't believe it. They have quotas for hiring and firing, so they can run these hire to fire scams where they fire you after 2 weeks of work. It allows them to get work out of you while legally able to pay you nothing. Or the other trick they have again is that they have people who say they want to work full time and they hire them part time so they can hire three people for like the price of one, right? So you work on Monday, Megumi works on Tuesday, I work on Wednesday. Instead of just hiring you for the full week of Monday through Wednesday, Monday through Friday, we're gonna split it between three people to get away with paying them less. Megumi, why don't you want to go to work and not make enough money to survive? Why is that not exciting for you? Dude, I'm telling you, like I didn't get any benefits off of that stuff, but anyone who stayed home, I don't blame them at all. Damn, they really were like surprised by that. People don't want to work. It's like, yeah, when you give them wages that they can't afford to live off of. I swear these politicians, they really and I mentioned before you showed up, Megumi, that we're in such a decrepit era that a lot of the people who run for office um don't actually talk about labor. So they instead they'll make like vague references to the economy and job growth and jobs here, jobs there, because they deflect from actually discussing, you know, things that affect people on jobs like higher wages and healthcare and various things that are like tied to someone's employment, and they did it on purpose because um, in the eyes of corporations, it's always good to say, "Oh, we're going to make this many jobs." But when you start talking about, "Hey, we need to pay people more, give them an extra $2, $3 an hour," then suddenly you get resistance from their donors who are like, "Hey, you got to tone that down. We don't want you to promise things that are too extravagant, like paying people an extra $2 an hour or $3." I just thought that was funny that like they really took labor and like talk around it. Like they might say, "Oh, I'm against the minimum wage and for the minimum wage, increase," but like specific proposals that they have almost never. No, those quotas are going to be the death of these companies because people eventually someday are, because I'm even that way right now where it's like I think I'm tolerant of most things a job, will like put me through, but there's some stuff where I've pushed back. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I quit, whatever. Um, I think the like people, because there is this thing when you have a job where you're like, I need this job, I don't have it, I can't pay my bill. But if you're already not able to pay your bills, whatever little itty bitty amount of money they pay you, you're just like, all right, whatever, you can keep it, cram it up your backside. I don't care. That's why I said that the manager at the place I worked for, and I think it was 2021, that person was very lucky that I hadn't been through a lot of the other lousy experiences with companies before that. Because if I had, when he made his little threat about if you don't get better by next week, we'll let you go, I would have told him to go kick rocks. That's why I said these people they take advantage of those that are, like just getting in. I still haven't seen the movie before yet. The line, reality is often disappointing, constantly gets reinforced even right now. Hey, well, I think I used it in my video. Like I said, there's something really wrong with the idea. And look, these are just my beliefs, but I think there's something very wrong with the premise that if a person wants a job, they just can't like and I'm talking about a job where they can afford, it could be a one bedroom shack. Like if someone wants a job and they want to work 40 hours, they should be able to find one that gives them that guarantee. And if when that's not available, there's something wrong with that. Eventually, collective society is going to get sick and fed up with these corporations having infinite leeway to screw people over, and people are going to protest and riot. Yeah, the only way you're going to get change in this stuff is if enough people come together and just say to hell with it. Because, like I said, corporations, they may seem really powerful with their billions of dollars and, oh look, we hired this man, but in reality, they're a house of cards because their ability to actually control things and tell people what to do is all predicated on two things: the customers and the workers. And when all the workers say, "Hey, look, we're sick of this. You're not going to pay me um $5 less than what I should be paid, or three, or make it to where I don't have any vacation time or I don't have any health care coverage." When that happens, it's over for them. And really, the way it has to be done, in my view, is to just progressively squeeze out these corporations. Like you start in one city, and then the one that did in that city pairs up and starts another one, another city, and just eventually just drain them dry of all their nonsense. Because while I do think they can intimidate a lot of people with their whole, we'll fire you thing, if enough people have each other's back, as far as like, hey, if they fire you, I'll help you get a job. You can go work for this person. If enough of them get together in that way, I think a lot. Like for me, having a company say I'll fire you doesn't scare me, even if I don't have any other source in, because it's like they would fire you over anything, and we're so used to it now. I mean, winners have a price to pay. Without the workers, they can't really get anything done. They can't get anything done to company. You think that those billionaires are going to go sit at their local store and start processing and taking in orders? No, they're not. If enough workers get together and say we are done with this, that's it. Every corporation in America will crumble. It's like the book Atlas Shrugged. All we have to do in order to topple their empire is stand up. And like I said, these corporations are not the brave, innovators that they claim to be. Like they're really afraid of unions. That's why every time somebody tries to start one, they go about making their threats. And you saw that where they lost the case and they were trying to argue in court over and over. So they're not as uh, powerful as people make them seem. Somebody with a lot of money can run ads and they can get their message across, whatever, but as far as like actually being able to control what the masses do, no. Yeah, workers power all this stuff. And I hope eventually and like I said, for me it's just I've never like done organizing before. But I'll go and visit a Starbucks or an Amazon and ask people there, hey, you want to join a union? It's just I have to be more well versed on the issue and just kind of like be able to, because a lot of people who work for these places, they don't keep up with what the CEO says. But you get the idea that you have to like make them know about it and then I guess try to inform them about it and then see where it goes from there. Megumi, did you see the one insane person that left a comment? It wasn't up for that long, but still. I mean, what are they going to do if people collectively decide to stop working until they get paid a living wage? They can't do anything. They can sit there and I guess maybe get their congressman or senator that they have in their back pocket to, you know, protest the people or say, are they going to get the government to force us to work? Oh no. They couldn't even do that during the virus and after it. I subscribed to you 10 years ago. I didn't make videos 10 years ago. And then he said something weird about my attire because that's like the playbook for these people. It's like, so not only is he failing being straight, but he's also failing math. I'm not even joking. There's a radio host that I used to listen to, and somebody made a channel where they would just upload like different clips of callers calling into a show. And there was one guy called who's like, I first heard you in 2008 and man, I tuned out. And the first thing out of the host, and I was like, I didn't have a show in 2008. Like people just throw out these random years. Like, I first saw you that year. I remember tuning in. It's like, okay. God, people are so weird. I just don't get what they were expecting writing that. I feel like people are weird online, man. Like they write stuff that only in their mind is there any reason to write it. Like I'm gonna admit I'm gonna claim I subscribed to you during a period where you weren't even uploading stuff. I'm gonna say you changed without explaining what that even means, and I'm gonna make some weird comment about your attire because I have to check off my last box of insanity. And of course, they're going to mention it as that is something they'll constantly hyper focus on. And it's like, I'm just sitting here just like trying to do a stream and talk about some stuff. I think some fairly serious topics as far as like how workers are treated, how I've been treated as a worker. Um, and of course, there's always some levity, but it's like, damn, why is it that when I talk about something, there's always this person that comes around and they bring up something that's like nothing to do with what's being discussed. Because, like I said, I watch other people's streams; they don't do this. If Fox started streaming right now, you're not going to see us by going there and talk about, I'm bored with the news. Let's discuss football. Like it's weird. Well, I mean, Jem, I can actually pull up comments from several years ago where they were writing like weird stuff about other parts of my attire. So it's just it really is just like this weird homoerotic thing that these guys do. I don't quite understand it, but it wouldn't matter. Anything I'd have on, they'd say something about because when you have nothing to contribute to a conversation, you and you can hide your face, you talk about the person that shows theirs. I mean, Megumi remembers the guy that came to the stream and was like writing about what he thought I looked like, and then the guy who's writing this is stole a football player's picture. And I'm like, how do you have the nerve to talk about the way anybody looks, and you're hiding behind the image of another man, a more successful man, a more well-known man? Why be content with being mediocre? It is disgusting. Because, like I said, you try to have a serious conversation about things with people, and they act like little kids. I fully believe I could go to a kindergarten classroom or even a pre-K classroom, and I could sit those little 4 or 5 year olds down and talk to them about how workers aren't paid as much as they should be. And you would see less obfuscating, less attempts to talk about something else from those little kids than you would see from grown adults online. You think I'm kidding? I think if you went up to a group of 5 year olds, 6 year olds, and you said, hey, uh, workers, when you get older, you're going to have jobs that don't pay you as much as they should. They would understand it and have more comprehension and critical thinking than these adults do. You never seen them before. They just show up and write something so left field and irrelevant. Yeah, they're drive-by typers. All these new characters that show up and they've been watching you. Remember, they've been watching you for the longest time, but they've never found the courage to write anything before now. Now, Jem, you're just saying that because you got that George Soros money in your pocket. Your opinion is no more valid than a sweepstakes to a Beatles concert. I mean, come on, we already know that anything you say is bought out by big money. Don't even try to pretend you're not sitting there with Bill Gates sipping on some champagne as you guys donate as he donates to you and other people on YouTube to give these bought, paid, and sold opinions on various commentators and destroy the algorithm with your undue influence. Oh, Megumi, that's another thing that happens in America now, where like every time somebody wins, like every time somebody loses an election, they say it's rigged, but then when they win it, it was all free and fair. Like nobody can ever just lose legitimately anymore. Because I said before, if I ran and I lost, which I think would be the most likely, so not like I just for the reasons we cited before. It's like I wouldn't if I said it was rigged, it would be more so that the media purposely wouldn't cover me and my opponent would like try to just pretend I don't exist and be allowed to get away with that because local races are not as covered. But as far as do I think votes were changed? No. There's been all this talk about raving about the new Blue Beetle movie, keep bringing up his race and whatnot. Why do they care about his race? It's not even a focal point of his character. Well, when you have nothing substantive to add to a conversation, just bring up things that are glaringly obvious, I guess. No, it's these man. These ever since I came back, it's been just a roller coaster of crazy stuff. That phone interview is supposed to take place in a few minutes. I'm contemplating just like continue that's how like no how little confidence I have in these places anymore. Like I have a scheduled interview and I don't even care. It's like I'll if they call me, I'll pick up and like mute the stream. But uh as far as like I'm not even sure if they're gonna call me or not because that's what they do. They say one thing and then do the other. They're very wishy washy. They flip it from one side to the other. You don't know what to believe anymore. He said, "Good luck. Remember, it's the same old story, the same old song and dance." my friend. We already know what's going to happen. They're going to ask some questions. You answer them. Then they'll tell you when they're going to eventually respond back, and you hear nothing from them. Been down this road before. My personal pronouns. I feel like that's very obvious. No, Megumi, they actually what I started noticing is they do that to anyone who has like a specific style or like trend or pattern, they'll like say something weird about because even with secular talk, he dyed his hair. And I see people are like, it's been 7 months since you dyed your hair. It's been 8 months since you dyed your hair. I'm like, why does it matter? Or it's Tim Pool. Look at him in his beanie. Like, okay, what? So yeah, anyone that got like a specific thing or style or whatever, they point out and they try to draw attention toward for some reason. I don't know why. In the past 90 days, have you had aggressive feelings? Yes, I very aggressively wanted to go to the Nixon Library, and I finally went yesterday, and I felt so happy. Best Sunday I've had all year. I was like, yeah. I got in that car, and I drove. I was like, oh man. Yeah, I had a pretty decent time over there. Well, it's 12:30. They haven't called. They do that sometimes where they're like a few minutes late to their own thing. And I was like, isn't that crazy? You guys tell me to like pick up at this time or expect a call at this time, and then I'm available, and then there's nothing. It's like, please wait for us while we don't call you. The person asked an extra question. I don't know what they're asking. I'm just waiting for all the bad interpretation of the movie because people's stupidity entertains me. Oh, so Akatsuki Merchant, that's why you watch me because my stupidity entertains you. I should ban you for that. Matter of fact, hold on a second. I'm gonna put you hide user on this channel. It asks how long to put until 2005 million. All right, there. So that was the end of Akatsuki Merchant. You'll never see him again. How's that one song go? Goodbye, nice try, I'm gone. So Akatsuki Merchant can no longer be seen. If you see a comment and you think it's him, it's not. It's a bot. We just have that looks like him. It's got that same blue wrench. So he outed himself. He revealed that he only watches me for my stupidity entertains him. So I was very hurt by his comment. After the stream is over, I'm gonna go cry in a corner. And this is one heck of a betrayal. But yeah, after today, you will never see Akatsuki Merchant again. I just banned him. All of his comments are invisible. He's been erased. Hey, his comments are on my stream what civil rights era books are in Florida. Jem, remember DeSantis banned the Rosa Parks biography? Man, my grandma used to watch Springer all the time. Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. Why did that show even exist? Because it was entertaining. You're just upset that you don't have your own show. And you probably won't get one until you appear on Must See TV. Anytime you criticize somebody, you're jealous of them. Dude, they made Springer sound like WWE. Like, yeah, are the fights real or are they choreographed? My favorite part was when I was one of my favorite things ever. I was talking about like forgotten like historical figures, and there's been like different videos where people have gone to college campuses and they've asked like who was the first president. People say Washington, and then who was the second one, and it's just. And I'm like, how do you forget Adams? He was the first VP. His son became president too. He had his own HBO show. Like how what you know what I mean? Like we're how God, people are just I don't get them at all. I mean, hey, everyone was getting their own show back then. Where's mine? Jerry Springer was mayor of Chicago until he gave a check to oh man. Don't say that the H word. This we don't allow crude language like that to be used here. Even though that Jem, you understand that same H word that you wrote is basically what our politicians are nowadays, right? Where they get some money and they perform a service for the various corporations and special interest groups that fund them. Like they don't actually have their own positions. It's all just legalized bribery. Like seriously, there's no difference between one of the H words sitting in the back alley with a little short skirt on, and one of the H words that's wearing a suit and tie and having a backroom deal with some donors. It's like it's the same thing where they pay him some money and they perform a service for them or vote in a way or do some specific like it's crazy, man. It's nuts. So much corruption. I prefer the ones with the hey, me too. At least they're honest about it. Nobody's going to glorify them. Nobody's going to tell you that you should aspire to their position. You get what you pay for. Dude, if you see some of the like just tongue baths that these politicians get, it's so like after that shooting, the way that they spoke about, oh, there's not much we can do about gun violence. We got to change people's hearts. I was like, God, that really shows you how like demented America is in terms of the people that represent us. Um, because remember Sandy Hook, right? I was in like it was like no ninth grade when Sandy Hook happened. It's like 2012. Everyone was talking about you have to do something about these firearms. All these children were murdered, and like now it doesn't even matter. You can have somebody kill like 10 or 20 people, and it's just no big deal. I told you after the one in Vegas where the guy got on top of that tower, not tower, that hotel room, 30 something floor hotel room, and killed over 50 people. I thought so because like that it was like nothing, just nothing ever. Megumi says, I'll say that is very dismissive. They just don't care. Megumi, we got to change people's hearts. My daddy served in World War II, and he said if somebody's trying to get you, there ain't much you can do about it. Even though he survives, there actually was something he could do about it. God, oh man, I tell you. And you can't even get the most basic of reforms, like very few of us are just saying ban every, because there are cases where people use guns to protect themselves, old person was by themselves, etc. So no one here is actually saying like ban all of them. We're talking about banning assault weapons. Like, why do you need an AR? Like why do you need to be able to shoot multiple people in like 2 minutes? And the crazy part is that a lot of the more like what I'm starting to notice, and this isn't talked about that much, the crazier the person is, it's like the more guns they have. Because like somebody will have like one, maybe two. The person that did the shooting in Nashville, from what I've read, had 7 of them, and the one that did the one in Vegas had like 50 guns or 60 guns. It's like why does like think how weird this like why does one person remember we're not talking about like a group of people. One person needs several guns. Why is that necessary? I'm just asking. Like I don't have several. Well, I mean, I'm just saying. Like it's hard for me to think of something I have several of besides food. Maybe I have like several jackets, like multiple shirts. But it's like, why do you need like? And it's not even just 1, 2, or 3. They 7, 20, 30. Like some of these people have whole arsenals at their place. You don't think that's weird? I see they just started to lock up hammers, socks. Megumi, you don't think it's weird that someone has like a whole like enough guns to arm like a small militia? Like they have enough guns to give one to everybody in their neighborhood? Is there when you have a shotgun or pistol for home defense, but several high caliber rate of fire guns? Now you're planning on killing. Yeah, that's a thing I've noticed more and more, that a lot of those shooters, they don't just have one weapon or two. They have like 5, 10, 20, 30, or even more than that. Got to prepare for the zombies. Man, listen, I'm really serious when I tell you that there are normal people in America who do get a gun to take care of themselves. Megumi says they probably think they are a GTA protagonist, a huge arsenal of weapons. But you understand what I'm saying of how there are people in this world who are actually scared. And when they get a gun, it's to it's to defend themselves, take care of themselves, whatever. So when you have individuals who have 7, 8 of these, or even more than that, that's where you start to go, okay, my suspension of disbelief is out of here, because like you don't need all of this. Because wouldn't it be kind of weird if you saw me and I had what's some, well, I don't even like making compare because it's like false equivalencies, but like, why would I need 7 cars? If I have one or maybe two, in case something happens, like there's always a practical reason to have two of something in case something happens to one of them, you can go on the other one. You get where like if you start thinking about it, have anytime you have multiple of it, it's like weird. You only need one gun, maybe two if you want to keep one. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I have like 3 jackets, one in the house, one in the car. So like again, I get where you get like a few of them. You know, like I get where you can have multiple of something, but when it starts to be 7, 8, 9, 10, that's where it's like weird. Speaking of firearms, I rode past an armed officer today and he had an assault rifle near his hip, and I was extremely terrified. Yeah, those things are scary. Shotgun is ultimate defense. You fire twice, and one with half a brain would run. I just don't see why people need assault rifles. I really don't. I feel like any old regular gun should be enough for somebody wants to like is actually trying to take care of themselves. But when you're sitting around here with 20, 30, 50 in your trunk, no, we know what you're doing. They have a whole arsenal of weapons. And they want to tell you that that's just a person that's just normal. Yeah, I believe that. Got to change people's hearts. Dude, it's like the worst part is that every time they try to they try to like go to mental health, they don't even do anything to reform that. They're not talking about increasing therapists or creating some department or organization that goes and talks to people struggling with, you know, whatever their sanity or stuff they need assisted. None of that. They have a shooting. They won't do anything about guns because they get money from the NRA. So they're paid to let people die. So their solution is to talk about something else, which I said before, a person who is mentally ill with a knife is not going to be able to just smash and blast through all those glass doors. And you know what I'm talking about? Like they really act like if someone is mentally ill and they don't have a gun, they're just as dangerous as someone who's mentally ill and has one. It's sad, man. Hey, listen, you can pretend you don't like Ukraine, but you and Zelensky used to go to high school together. So let's not even trip. You and him used to sit right behind the bleachers and read all the juicy gossip about Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite and Mike Wallace and all the rest of the journalists that you so heavily admired. God, I swear you hear more about him than you do any other foreign leader at this point. Like every week there's something new. I don't know why you hate him. He's done so much for you. He's fighting that war for your freedoms along with the other along with the Americans. Always crying and begging. No, I agree with your proposal about having a ceasefire. And I tried to make the point of how both sides are going to end up having to concede certain things. Um, and it's like I watch some of these right wingers, and they're like, if you concede things to Putin, you are showing weak. Like, you guys really want to play with a man that has nuclear weapons? Like, you really telling me that we shouldn't try to accommodate that person? So you listen to some of these bastards, the whole planet will get blown up. People don't think, man. They just spout off at the mouth. Russia will steamroll them. Well, you know what I'm saying, right? That like it doesn't make any sense to me to not try to negotiate with the country that you know has nuclear weapons. Like, why would you want to antagonize them any further than you have to? Remember what DeSantis said. This is a territorial dispute. I said they should have a ceasefire. They should have some neutral arbiter, not America. We're too pro Ukraine. Probably like maybe China. Again, I'm just throwing spitball in the country. They should have some other country mediate, and then they give up some land, probably, and then the other one, yeah. Like, I mean, because there are some people from Ukraine that probably would be fine with going to Russia or moving over there. I already told you, man. I just wish the US wasn't so involved. We should have just put some sanctions on the Russian officials, top ones like Putin and the rest of the, clown car over there. And that would have been it. Like, we put, like, anytime you have some country that just invades another one like that, illegal war, just put some sanctions on the people that run the government because you're not trying to hurt the people. Condemn it, verbally. Maybe you send a little bit of money, but like, just, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, we can support them without trying to show our behind. And you know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know. I just feel as if we're a little too involved for my taste. Like, I think there should be an internet, like with the UN, where all the countries, if one of them invades the other and it's illegal, we all condemn it. We all put sanctions on their top officials, but we don't have to get involved in every war. This has nothing to do with us. It's a bad thing that Russia shouldn't have done. We put sanctions on Russia's officials, and then we go back to our, solving our own problems. Oh, but my view is very controversial. And I'll be called unpatriotic for supporting the country that I don't even live in. Why are Americans not more pro Ukraine? Like, I bet most Americans don't even know where Ukraine is. You pull out a world map, they're just like, I've just had it with Ukraine. Yeah, a whole year of this, man. They want to risk nuclear Armageddon for the sake of posturing military might against a superpower. These people are going to get us killed. Oh, absolutely. At this point, Putin can take the whole country. Hey, look, I'm gonna get off of here because I want to get something to eat before these people. So they were supposed to call me at 12:30. 20 minutes have passed, no call. I'd say I'm shocked, but not really, because that we know how these employers do. They say one thing and then do the other. So I'll be back on Saturday probably for my car because streaming here is impossible on the weekend. Thanks for coming, Megumi, Gem, Akatsuki Merchant. And I'll be back with the that stream on Saturday. So I hope that you guys have a good rest of your weekday, or I guess weekdays, and take care.